SCP-2901 is the Mothman, and this animation is by Dr. Cat. It's called A Mission in the Destroyed Building. Looks like it's gonna be a tale about the Mothman. I'm excited to see it. I hope you guys are too. Make sure to subscribe to Dr. Cat, guys. Subscribe to me if you like reaction videos too, and let's get into this one.
How many sightings did you say there were? 52, I answered, sick of being asked the same question. So,
New
how many of them are there in total? Impossible to tell. They can appear and disappear.
They're talking about the Mothman.
All sorts of unusual stuff.
Lots of instances,
Space and time as we know it means nothing to them.
Interesting.
I told the Foundation I didn't want to buddy up any more newbies. But here I was on the subway with an eager new Twilighter investigating SCP-2901.
Alright.
I suppose I had so much experience, the Foundation figured they'd at least get their new investment back alive. What should we be looking for?
Gosh.
Hopefully nothing. The last thing we want is direct contact with the fuckers. They're a lot bigger than you think. Almost 2 meters, with large round eyes.
Yeah,
like
that
a sheep
seems
ghost, but
pretty
a black
scary,
void
dude.
rather than a white specter. If you're unfortunate enough to get close, you'll spot the scales. They twinkle in the light.
Okay.
What do we... The newbie was cut off by the sound of the subway arriving at our stop. He shut up and stood, nervously following a few feet behind me. The doors opened, and we got our first indication of the chaos.
Alright.
The platform was solemn, with more emergency workers traveling through than you would usually expect to see, all looking distressed and exhausted. We nodded at them gravely as we made our way up the stairs and out onto the street. The apartment building we were aiming for wasn't far from the subway exit. It was illuminated by sirens, and there were screams and tears amongst the collapsed
It looks
rubble.
destroyed, yeah.
The stairwell of the building still stood, but outer apartment walls had crumbled, with exposed homes littering the skyline.
Okay.
The early reports were blaming lack of adherence to building regulations. That may have been true, but that, along with the sightings the Foundation had recorded, let me certain that 2901 was going to be found nearby.
Yeah.
What now? He asked, staring vacantly at the carnage before us. We go in. I waved at a police officer, adjusting my tie and scoping the area. We wore black suits and maintained an official, albeit ambiguous, appearance.
Okay.
Amongst the devastation, no one had the time to question our right or authority to be there.
Alright.
I ducked beneath the warning tape and ushered my protege along with me. This is not a containment mission, I said, as we made our way towards the barely standing apartment entrance.
What are y'all trying to accomplish?
I know you've come over from working on a different object, but 2901 are different. We can't contain them. They're tangible, but they're beyond our control.
Gotcha.
All we can do is limit the damage in public knowledge. How do we know what the damage is? We look for survivors, and we find out if knowledge of these guys is spreading. The Foundation has steps to limit impact on civilian society.
That's what they're trying to do.
We're going to apply an amnestic field, I continued as we stepped inside the dust-covered lobby, home to the rickety stairwell that was all that really remained of the building. That'll leave anyone who have seen the object within the field's radius in a state of amnesia.
Wow.
It was a tough scene to witness.
That's insane.
There were trails of blood and rubble strewn across the floor.
I mean, so is Scranton reality anchors too, when you think about it. SCP Foundation got them tools.
I wasn't sure if SCP-2901 caused the disaster they were often found near, or if they just came to feed off the misery. Either way, whenever sightings were reported, there was always heartbreak for someone's family. I spotted a woman struggling her way down the stairs.
Her foot, bro.
Her hair was disheveled and covered in grit and shrapnel. She had small cuts and bruises all over her face, and she was limping on what looked like a badly swollen ankle. I ran towards her to support her weight and took the lead, trying to demonstrate a professional approach to the newbie. Ma'am, excuse me. We're going to get you help. What's your name? We're investigating the collapse. What did you see? She breathed heavily onto my shoulder, struggling to maintain a standing position even with my assistance.
Poor baby, man. She looks so rough.
I'm Elizabeth. They're everywhere. So many of them. We're all going to die.
She saw it.
What are, ma'am? What are everywhere? The woman
Stick her
went
anyway,
limp in my arms, and the newbie gasped. I noticed a large quantity of sticky blood coming through her torn long-sleeve top at the arm. My stomach sunk as I realized what was causing it. Check her pulse, I ordered, as the newbie turned a deathly shade of white. He obliged, walking over and placing his fingers behind her ear. She's gone, he whimpered, shuddering
she just bled to death, right there.
I pulled back the sleeve of her top and held her arm out. The skin had been stripped from the wrist all the way to the
elbow.
elbow.
My
Pus
gosh.
and blood starting to congeal as the first signs of death set in. That's what they do, Ruby. These are the injuries we find. 2901 is definitely present. And judging by what she said and the look on her face, survivors will know about them. Amnestic field is a must.
Okay.
I gently lay the woman down on the floor and placed my head in my hands.
Rip.
I could feel a headache forming. We were among the first responders, but it wouldn't be long before a heap of camera crews and news vans were gathered outside conducting interviews. I needed to get in touch with ID card immediately. I grabbed my phone from my pocket and dialed the number.
Okay.
Who are you calling? My partner stuttered, looking way out of his depth, twitching as bits of building crumbled around him. Information, Detraction, Censorship, and Rescission Division.
Excuse me?
I noted his confused face. They'll sort out any media leak while we set up the field.
Okay.
Before I could click call, a group of people started making their way down the stairs. I gestured to a spot behind the stairwell, and we made our way to the corner just in time to see multiple firemen carrying 3 survivors out of the wreckage. They stopped and bowed their heads sincerely at the body I'd left on the floor. I shushed the newbie silently, knowing we didn't have time to explain our presence to emergency workers whose only mission was to get people out of the rubble.
Right.
We waited as they fought to the exit. Once they made it out the door, I started to make the call. The phone didn't ring. It took me a moment too long to realize it was nothing to do with signal or an issue with my technology.
Okay.
We were experiencing a sudden acoustic cancellation, something often reported by field agents who had gotten dangerously close to 2901.
Really?
I looked up.
That's
and
pretty
on
scary.
perfect cue, there they were. 3 of them, all ellipsoid in shape, but varying in dimension, making their way down the stairs. They levitated, remaining a few inches from the floor as they glided downwards, closer to where we hid.
Creepy.
The absence of sound was unnerving. I could see the newbie trying to scream, but all there was deafening silence.
Wow.
I felt for him. This had to be a tough first day in a new post.
You can't.
I reached into my inner jacket pocket,
sounds,
noting the object's
sounds
iridescent exterior. As much as they were spectral, they were solid. An impossible inconsistency to describe.
Wild.
They were both right there and not there at all. My fingers made contact with the handle of my gun. I readied myself to deal with the coming altercation, but instead, my plans were thwarted. The newbie stumbled out of our hiding space by the stairwell in a trance-like state, fascinated and terrified of the creatures before him.
What the heck, dude?
His sudden movement drew their attention, and I caught my clearest ever glimpse of their hollow, voided sockets that I presumed were eyes.
Wow.
They knew we were there.
Yep.
My ears began to ring, and the carnage was suddenly audible again. "Don't move," I spat under my breath, holding my gun in my pocket. The newbie froze as I enacted protocol. Slowly, I drew my arm out and raised it above my head, making sure the other arm that still held my phone matched. I maintained eye contact, attempting to make a threat display that was enough to frighten them off.
Really?
2901, although vast in numbers, are a solitary species.
Okay.
And it was unusual to see more than one without witnessing them attacking each other.
Right.
I'd had to use
each
this
other. They
animalistic
attack each
tactic
other
before,
too?
but never on a group.
Interesting.
In fact, I'd never observed a group of them together at all.
Okay.
I was beginning to feel quite out of my comfort zone. It wasn't long before the screeching began. In the kerfuffle, the creatures noticed their counterparts and reverted to their typical territorial and hostile behavior.
Okay.
2 began to fight, phasing in and out of visibility as they emitted a cacophony of awful noises.
It's like freaking
The
Dragon Ball
moved
Z,
towards
man.
the frozen new operative. I gulped, knowing I had no choice. I aimed my gun at the creature and pulled the trigger.
Boom!
It wailed like a cat in heat before fizzling into nothingness in the
Cat
air.
in heat.
I hated killing. Hated it. But as the creature ceased to exist, I let out a sigh of relief for newbie. I grabbed his arm and dragged him towards the exit of the building.
You killed one, but there's many of them, right?
Investigate the scale of the issue the Foundation were facing, but I wasn't going to risk the trainee's life.
The music's
I looked
all
back
epic,
at the body
dude.
of Elizabeth on the floor before we left. I wondered what kind of life she'd had, her hopes and dreams. She'd already lost hers.
This is good narration and good story, man. I love this tale.
He was near catatonic. I knew I was going to have to give feedback to the superiors that I didn't think was cut out for the post, but damn did I feel bad about it. I
What
like
are
the
your
guy.
first days on the job?
I dragged him around the
Training
side of the
can't prep
rubble,
you for that.
past ambulances and gathering news vans, just like I'd predicted. As we walked, I sent a text to ID card telling them damage control would be needed.
Right.
His eyes were glazed and vacant. I shoved the small metal rod I'd kept strapped to my ankle in his hand.
Ah.
Place it amongst the rubble, I ordered. He dithered.
That's the
shaking his
field
head and trying
generator.
to focus.
That's the medic
What
field
is it?
generator.
The field. This will help limit survivors talking about what they saw.
Mm-hmm.
Place it in the concrete, and then we need to go, or it'll affect us too.
Okay.
Operatives will come for the device in a few hours. He did as he was told.
Interesting.
I dusted my suit off and looked at the quivering trainee. The phone beeped with a response. Affirmative, it read.
That's it.
Shoulder back, chin up. We need to get back under the line and on the subway without being in the back of a single camera. Got it? I barked. Got it. We walked in perfect tandem, heading towards the nearby station. We ducked back under the police line with confidence and didn't stop for the officer saying excuse me. He started to pursue us, but a volunteer caught his attention, giving us just enough time to slip down the subway stairs. There's really nothing more we can do? He asked, back to his inquisitive self.
That's it, buddy.
The Foundation are working on a feasible containment method, but until then, all we can do is reduce the risk of harm, research, learn more, and discredit any leaks. If this isn't for you, you can ask to be assigned elsewhere. No, I want this. I want to. Need to. Know more about them.
Yeah.
I smiled.
It's pretty fascinating when you think about it.
The electronic sign
dangerous,
two
but
minutes. 2 minutes.
Makes for an exciting
and this
job.
day will be over. Or that's what I thought. Just before the lights of the train reached the section of track that lined the platform, I noticed it. Had I looked a second later, I'd never have seen it at all. And once the train had passed, it was gone. A creature, black and shadowy, in that familiar ellipsoid shape.
Right.
We settled in a double seat. I could hear
On the
the
train?
newbie breathing fast, adrenaline pumping. I checked that the carriage was
Things
clear,
are everywhere,
aside
man.
from ourselves, and picked up my phone, dialing my superior. He answered within a few rings. Sir, we're going to need to monitor the situation at Redacted Station. Sighting of SCP-2901. We aren't far from the now secured site, but further than any creature had been reported from a disaster zone, I said. My boss noted my concerns and hung up.
So they hang out at disastrous
monitor
areas?
the situation,
Disaster
the newbie
zones?
asked nervously. I looked at him, lowering my eyes, and confirmed what he'd already pieced together in his own mind. I saw one on the platform, newbie. The sightings reported often come before a disaster. I think that apartment building was just the beginning.
Oh no.
SCP-2901. Object Class, Euclid.
This was a really, really cool way. There's a lot of SCP animators out there. Dr. Cat has a really, really different and cool style of telling these tales, and I really, really like his animations, guys. Make sure to subscribe to him. Subscribe to me if you like reaction videos too. Thanks so much for watching. As always, this is Zueljin signing off. We'll see you next time.